In this video, we'll recap some of the features that came out as part of Power BI's June 2026 update to get me up to speed with everything that's been going on with Power BI. This includes things like the new Fabric apps, skills for Fabric, the new date picker for slicers, and the new Tooltips update. All of that and more, so without further ado, let's jump in. I've just read through the updates and it seems pretty heavy on the AI stuff. And we all knew it's coming. Copilot updates have been coming for the past few feature updates. But this month's update seems like it's really pushing to change the landscape of how you develop and work with Power BI reports in a big way. Let's start with the Fabric apps, which is a preview feature that basically allows you to create custom web apps using your Fabric data as your backend. So now instead of being limited by the visuals and settings that Power BI provides, you can now build your own custom web apps that connects to your data like the semantic model. I think this is a very powerful feature because it gives you complete freedom in how you visualize your data. And using it alongside other tools like Claude or Codex can speed things up dramatically. I've seen a few examples lying around of other people building their own custom reports, and it's honestly quite impressive the kind of visual animations and presentations that it can do. However, like many tools like this, which speeds up the development process, I'm always concerned about future maintenance, which is a real issue you have to deal with. I mean, sure, you can build very nice looking front-end web apps in a matter of hours with a few prompts, but you also have the burden of maintaining these reports, making sure that the data that is showing is correct, ensuring all of its components work, and fix any issues yourselves, which is typically something that is maintained and controlled by the Power BI visuals and by the Power BI team. Despite all of this, I do think it's a fairly powerful tool that speeds things up when it comes to report development. So let me know in the comment section box below if you want me to cover this in a future video. Copilot for Web Modeling is now in preview. This basically lets you improve your semantic models. It lets you do things like identifying inconsistent naming conventions, updating your schemas like renaming tables, columns, or even creating DAX measures. I've not really used this tool yet, so I can't say for sure how well it works, but it sounds like a really useful tool that will speed up your process when it comes to cleaning up semantic models. And while I'm not too keen on Copilot being able to make schema updates on my behalf, just the idea of letting it help me identify any points for improvement, I think will speed things up a lot, especially in my current process. Skills for Fabric is a catalog of AI agents for Microsoft Fabric that covers the end-to-end workflow of creating a report. So imagine this, from planning your report, designing the visuals, creating the report itself, to publishing it to Fabric, each skill is designed to help with every step of this process. And I think this is what truly changes the landscape of how we build Power BI reports now and in the future. Agentic workflows like this lets you build reports quickly, even without any prior Power BI development experience. And it's even better if you do have Power BI development experience because you'll be able to prompt it the way that you need it and identify issues along the way. It should already be out by the time I've recorded this video, so I will try to cover it in a separate video because I'm really curious how well you can build reports using this method end to end. Fabric IQ is another AI feature that supposedly enhances your end user's experience when they're chatting with their data, basically allowing them to answer questions about their Power BI data. So from what I understand, you give it an item, ask it a data question, and it will use that item as context to answer your question. You can ask it in context of different things like different slices and segments of data, trends, comparisons, summaries, or even combine data answers from other files and chats. The last one is actually what I'm interested in seeing how it works, because a big chunk of my work is typically data cleaning, and a lot of these kind of AI agentic workflows really relies on having a clean set of data for it to give you any meaningful results. That was a lot of AI stuff to cover, so let's move back to actually going through some of the reporting features that they've released this month. But before we do that, if you enjoyed this type of video, make sure you leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't yet, and share this video around. Any engagement helps this video reach out to more people. And also don't forget to check out my revamped website, solutionsabroad.co.uk, where you can search my videos, curate your learning paths, track your learning, all for free. So make sure you sign up and start your learning now. So going back to the reporting features in Power BI, let's start with the shape map visual. Actually quite surprising because it's a feature that's been out for a very long time now. It's a feature that lets you visualize geographical maps, lets you highlight areas and define your own boundaries using TopoJSON or GeoJSON files. And it's interesting that it's going to GA now because obviously it's a feature that's been out for more than 3 years now. Like the video that I covered with shape maps is 3 years old. And also because there's another visual, Azure Maps, that not only does exactly what shape maps does, it also lets you add other reference layers to further enhance how you visualize your maps, like heat maps, bubble layers, and other marker types. Anyway, this is an alternative if you wanted something more simpler than the Azure Maps, so check this out if you haven't yet. Date pickers for slicers is now in preview, and this will let you choose a date picker as a style option in the properties section. You choose dates from the calendar view, which is a lot more intuitive and modern. From here, you can choose a date range or choose relative like before. It even shows you a handy summary of the selection that you've chosen. I think this is still in preview, so if it is, just make sure you turn it on in the preview settings in order to start using it. Auto-expand options for matrix headers are now in GA. This is the feature that auto-expands the rows or columns in a matrix when they're being shown in their expanded state, instead of having to redo all of them individually. Auto-fit markers options is now available for scatter charts. This solves the problem when you have scatter charts that go beyond the scale of the chart. The bubbles actually clip outside of it, only showing you partial bubbles. Now you have a toggle as an option which auto-adjusts the scale. And to be honest, I think this feature could have just been the new default without a toggle, because I don't see any reason why you would want a clip version of the scatter chart anyway. New round ranges options is now available, which supposedly reduces paddings between bars and axes. Now I've looked everywhere for an explanation for this, but I cannot understand what this actually does. So if you do know, let me know in the comment section box below so I can try to demonstrate it. They've added a new hover states in the card visual images. This lets you configure how your images in your card visuals react on hover, giving your visuals a more responsive feel to it. The slicer visual selection icon formatting is now in general availability. This is on the OG slicer visual, which lets you adjust the color of the checkbox or radio buttons. So previously, if you've used the slicer visual, you're kind of stuck with the colors of the checkboxes or the radio buttons when you customize them. This means that reports that you have in dark mode does not really blend well if you're using the slicer visual. But now you have an option to adjust this. Matrix table fixed width conditional formatting is now in general availability. This is actually a pretty cool feature, and I think it's actually the first of its kind. This basically lets you control the width dynamically using DAX. You can either hook this up to a slider or control it dynamically using DAX, which is a really cool way to customize control like this. Azure Map Selections is now on by default. This feature lets you select multiple data points on the map. You can choose from different options like drawing shapes, like polygons or circles, or even proximity-based selection. Or you can simply turn this off and have the previous experience. Tooltips options are now in general availability, and I think it's one of those cool features that I previously missed. This essentially lets you bind your data within the sentence mode so that the tooltips are actually context-aware, making the insights on these tooltips more specific to the visual that it belongs to. Previously, you achieved this by creating a DAX measure, but this is actually a great shortcut because it reduces the need for you to create lots of custom DAX measures just for the tooltips. So I'll try to cover this in the future to show you how it works. DAX UDFs are now generally available as well. This is a feature that was released earlier this year that lets you create your own custom DAX functions. It opens up a lot of possibilities and ways to standardize functions, and I've covered it extensively in a previous video, so check it out if you haven't yet. PBIR rollout, which is meant to become the new default format for files, are now postponed until August. This is the new format that saves your models and reports in a text-friendly format. And you should definitely be using it if you want to work on your reports programmatically or using LLMs for agentic development. There's a new Power BI desktop bridge that is currently in preview, and this lets external tools connect directly to a running Power BI desktop session. Now, there wasn't much information that I could find either on the update or in the Microsoft documentation, so I'll try to dig up some more information about this feature itself. But it sounds to me that it's meant to come as a pair along with the agent skills that we looked at earlier. But to be completely honest, I have no clue what this is and how it differs from Power BI's MCP servers, but I'll see if I can find some more information about it and maybe I can demo it to you guys as well. Power BI tabs in Teams are now supported in private and shared channels, letting users access Power BI reports without leaving Teams. Now, this is not actually a new feature. It's been out for some time now, but it seems that now this has been extended to private and shared channels as well, making it easier to collaborate across teams. And that's really it for this recap video. I hope it's okay that I'm gonna try to cover a few more of these until I catch up. Let me know in the comment section box below if there's something else that you would like me to cover in the meantime. And as usual, full blog post link in the description box below. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you check out my website, solutionsabroad.co.uk.